I'm still in Sydney.
And where are you, James, right now?
I'm in San Francisco, in
Okay.
California. But yeah, that behind me.
His name, I don't remember anymore. It's 7, oh, it's 8 o'clock. So
Next declaration. Everybody seems prophet. No, we have just a moment.
playing Lego.
Yeah.
So the name is Hope of Garden or the Garden of Hope. Which way?
With
How is the weather there, David? Seems good, very good. Seems sunny.
It's lovely. It's a summer day.
But your home is close to the sea? It's close to the ocean?
No, it's not. It's in the woods.
Ah,
So, yeah, I have a big river that goes nearby. The place where George Washington crossed on Christmas Eve to attack the German soldiers during the Revolutionary War. Very close to Washington's Crossing. Very historic place. So crossing the Delaware River.
but can you rotate your screen to show us your garden? Because I saw your national flag. Oh, but it's a big garden.
It's Independence Day this weekend. It's our holiday, our national holiday. So
Yes.
Ah, yeah. Yeah, it's true. The 4th of July. Oh, but yes, 4th of July.
Yes.
Wow. we have to arrange the final
a
party.
whirligig.
David, I'm gonna be in New York this weekend, so maybe we can have a mini meeting.
That would be nice. It'd be great to see
Yeah.
you.
I'll be staying close to Central Park, but yeah, I'll figure out a way this weekend or next week
All right.
sometime. Yeah,
Figure something out.
awesome.
At the meantime, I could introduce you Antonello, because already you know the other guests. Antonello is the special guest I invited this evening because last night a friend of mine showed me a post on Facebook about an urban orchard that we have in town. And so I called him and I asked, but what's happened? And he told me Antonello could tell you about better than me. Antonello is Antonello Miraglia. Is a volunteer involved in different in many projects about orchard and green in town, and maybe he's able better than me to talk you about this. In this moment, just in this moment, our monk Gregorio Carboni Maestri is arriving, and
Hi, Gregorio.
in Italy, we say like cheese on macaroni. No, cheese on macaroni is perfect. No, it's a super super tasty, super smell. Why? Like cacio with macaroni? Because Gregorio, I was introducing Antonello, and I was talking about his work in town. Antonello is involved in many projects about the urban orchard, and you are like Cascio as macaroni because in some part of the because many time, often Gregorio quote in our discussion Karl Marx, for example, no? And in a small big book written by Karl Marx, I remember he wrote about how much is important man have an orchard in their home and play guitar, grow up their plants, and so on. No, a relationship with the world not only by the body but also by the soul. And growing plants help us to make our this relationship with our soul better. Later, Antonello tell us about this your action as a volunteer. At the meantime, I would start to introduce the other guest, starting from my great friends James Wiki and Michael Erickson, both architects. James is an architect, properly said, and is currently in California, but he has an office in Beijing. And Michael Erickson is properly a landscape architect, and he works in Beijing, but currently is in Australia. As many of us in different places of the world blocked by Corona. As MBMB is architect from Congo, currently blocked, maybe a little bit blocked in Milano. And David Money is a new friend I met some weeks ago, but with a lot of, with many things in common with Milano, with me and Gregorio, with us as architect. Because David is the dean of this Faculty of Architecture dedicated to Michael Graves, and as you know, Michael Graves, Aldo Rossi, and many others was the main characters of the architectural scene during the 80s and 90s also. And I just arrived, Gregorio Garboni Maestri, who's teaching architecture in Brussels, but currently is thinking to move to Italy for joke.
I would love to, but
I don't know.
I'm still waiting for a job there.
And last but not least, this evening we have with us Ilke Setin and 6MCHXU. The real name is Sterap, two architects from Turkey. Ilke is partner of this office of ARCME, and Serap is a former intern we had in office during the last winter. So at this time, now I suppose I have to choose for you a song. And this evening I have to apologize with you because I'm not still prepared, but I know the song I would like to show you because it's very fun. Because this evening I would show you two songs, and now I'll explain why. Because it's fun how languages and culture make everything different. No? The relationship between the time, the space, and the people is really interesting. So now I would like to share my screen to start to introduce our episode. I suppose we are all into, okay? So we could start. I'm sharing immediately my screen. so do not waste time. And I would like to start with a very, very famous song by Lou Reed, no? That you know, surely, I suppose, no?
Came from Miami, FLA. She says, hey, babe, take a walk on the wild side. Said, hey, honey.
Okay, it's enough. Why it's enough? Why it's enough? Because now I would share with you another song. Let me choose a good video. Yes, this one could be okay.
Peter con le mani pure via. Eri il noto uomo e adesso non vuoi. La tua casa lascia, poi scegli un mondo di poesia, sei stupida. Tu che pensi bambini? Peter, tu che pensi bambini?
I choose these two songs because, of course, the Italian song is the translation of the English, the American song, but it's not the translation. It's not the translation because this girl, this woman, this lady, one of the most transgressive Italian singer of the 60s, translating this song also changed the story. And this story in the Lou Reed song is take a walk on the white side. In the Italian version is she is meeting this boy in a garden, in the Kensington Garden. And of course, they start to flirt. No? So it's a totally different meaning, but it's a really interesting way to show you some image because often, for example, me and Michael talk about garden, park, landscape, but as you know, for all this word, we could feel different meanings, no? So I will share with you some image to talk, to move you some issues, some questions, no? And now I share with you my screen again. Okay, I suppose somebody is able to recognize this, my niece.
Is this
Because
James' right?
we are in Shanghai, and these two children are two very sweet children, sons of a friend of mine. Now I would start to show you all these images one after the other one. Yes. Okay, this is Shanghai. Maybe James later could explain better than me where is this place. He showed me this place approximately 1 year ago. You remember, no? We was in Shanghai, me, James, Michael, we was together. COVID is so fair. And this is another garden. No, do you remember this place? Do you remember? We had a drink in this very nice bar after an awesome dinner with Michael. And also this is a garden. No, Michael shown this place the morning after that night.
So beautiful.
No, everywhere you can see green. Everywhere you can see plants. In this situation, the plants in the first one, the plants are scenography, are there to be seen in the Chinese garden, no? In the bar, maybe the same, more scenography. In that case, these three seem part of this family. Is an element of this family. Maybe Michael could explain better than me the story of this traditional house in Shanghai, one of the most ancient houses in Shanghai, and the tree seems a part of this family. He grown together with this family. He's not part of the house. It's part of the family. Even the bird is part of this family. No, it's a unity. The trees, the bird, the family, the house. No. What is this? This is a section of an interesting garden in Sicily, in a small island in the south of Italy, in the middle of the sea between Sicily and Africa. People built for centuries this small garden for one tree, an orange tree. As you can see, the wall is sloped in this way, so sun and water can move into this garden. But these huge walls are able to protect the tree by the wind, by the action of the wind. And this is the final result. So this island in the middle of this sea, where the wind during the winter are really cold and aggressive, is protected. And as you can see, I'll try to, okay. As you can see, the orange is growing up into this protected garden.
I never saw that. Is it
Amazing.
how old is this system? I mean, who brought it? The Arabs, or is it an Arabic thing?
I suppose the tradition of the walled Arabian garden influenced this kind of construction. There is a nice book written by Francesco Bignone where you can find a lot of pictures and drawing to know better this kind of construction. Sometime built in this way. But I know you are clever guys, and you are asking why he has a knot in his back. Why? Because in the courtyard of our office, an old man, very, very old, super old, I called him the Ilke's boyfriend. Ilke, can you hear me? Approximately he is 84, 85. But he really is really smart, is really empathic. Day by day, add a small piece of garbage on this construction. And this construction is like a frame, like something able to sustain this prunus. You can see here. So all this recycled garbage and the trees are becoming part of the same matter. And I think this old man is the most modern man we have met in the last years working in our office, more modern than our youngest interns. Because he's selling a lot of garbage. Can you see? He's use every kind of trick, every kind of a piece of garbage to reinforce the trees, no, the tree. And I found this amazing. I found this really contemporary and amazing. And of course, we could also talk about the relationship between aesthetic and function, beautiful and function, and so on. But now I prefer to stop and leave you introduce your shared images and contents. Welcome. Who would like to start? We could start maybe with Antonello, the newest guest we have today. Are you ready, Antonello, to talk about?
I still have to search for one photo, but if you like, I can go from one photo now and from one photo later if you prefer.
Oh yeah, don't worry. Greg, David, our
Well, I have
professor.
I have nothing to show. I normally I had to be in the car towards Italy. I mean, towards see my daughter in France, but I'll depart tomorrow morning. And no, I mean it's I'm still surprised by this thing you just shown in Sicily. It's really interesting. I never saw that. Italy is an eternal discovery in terms of architecture and food. Every day I discover more. What else? I am here yesterday. I went to, I mean, all this week I was in Matonge, which is the Congolese neighborhood here in Brussels, to make we were partying during the whole week for the anniversary of the independence of Congo. So I wanted to say this because Hembe is here. So it was I had a lot of Congolese food and drinks and so on, and it was great. Yeah, I mean, I can show you oh no, I don't have pictures here, but yeah. No, I mean, I have nothing to say right now. I'm just listening. I'm observing.
No, maybe my speech could sound a little bit confused, but I was moved you.
It was so clear that it left like
because both of these objects are able to protect the tree. No. In the present, the walls are able to protect the tree, building architecture as we already know.
Pepe.
Yeah.
I think let me show a small video. It has something to do with the garden that you show in Shanghai, but also have something to do with this boundary which protects a garden. I mean, I'll show you this boundary. It's very interesting. And I don't know if I can share my screen, but I'll play this video for everybody. Let's see if I can do that. Let me do this. Pepe, I'm going to send you the video, okay, in WeChat, and you can do it. Okay, and then somebody else can go when I'm doing that.
Sure.
I think I think photos don't really do justice to this garden. I will have to show you the video. Okay, never mind. So somebody else can go while I transfer this to you.
Pepe, I have a project I could maybe insert here, which I think fits well with the scale of what you presented already, but it's different. So let me try to do that. There. So this is a house and a development outside Florence. designed by an architect
Whoa.
named Leonardo Ricci. And I think you may know more about this man and this architect than I do, but he was quite an interesting individual, both a painter and an architect, and probably maybe best known for the Palace of Justice in Savona that was designed, I think, in the 1980s. At the very end of his life, he won the Palace of Justice competition in Florence, and the project was built, but not really according to his design so much. But what I want to talk about is relation to landscape. And Leonardo Ricci served in the Italian army during the Second World War. And in 1943, he deserted the army and went back to the village where he'd grown up, and people hid him there. And he painted, and he did this landscape during that time. And I've always loved this particular landscape in black and white, the Italian countryside, and somehow it both gets at the essence of the place as well as the time in which it's done. He went on to paint all through his life much more abstractly, and here's an example of that. And in addition to the bigger projects like the Palace of Justice, though, he did this little development just outside Firenze called Monte Rinaldi. And again, you all may know it better, but what I wanted to show you was really just what's in the foreground in this photo, because in front of these set of houses done in just after the war, 1945, is this garden, these raised gardens made of stones that have been painted in primary colors. All right, and I visited it once and thought it was just a beautiful place. This different kind of garden of making something out of the rubble that existed at the end of the war and doing something to it to make it great. The house itself is quite beautiful, and I'll show you quickly just some images of that and the use of the stone to make that happen. And
Wow.
brightly colored lights and glass. And then the painting studio upstairs, as well as an architectural studio downstairs. He would really split his day, half the day painting, half the day doing architecture. But again, there's the house, but it is this garden in front, this garden of broken stones painted in colors in 1945 that just somehow seemed to be a wonderful kind of interpretation of the war and making something out of what had happened with the war and all that was left of it.
Amazing.
So Ricci was the dean at the school in Florence for a number of years. Then he came and taught in America for a period of time. And he passed away in 1994 and is buried in Florence. So you may know more about him than I do, but I visited this project almost by accident one day and thought it was just a wonderful, wonderful thing to see.
Very interesting. I don't know anything about him.
Can you repeat the name of the architect, David? Because it's really...
Leonardo Ricci. He wrote one book called Anonymous 20th Century that you can find occasionally.
Which is also very interesting.
A student of Micheluzzi, which
yeah.
you can see, I think
now many things is clear. Yes.
Yeah, I know too. I know some of his works too.
Yeah, I visited the Palace of Justice in Savona. It was quite nice, but I've always just loved this garden of broken stone painted in color at the end of the Second World War. I just thought it was a beautiful invention and a kind of summing up in a lot of ways. So that was my garden for today.
I knew his Justice Palace and also his cemetery. Also, it's very, very interesting. He made this and also those huge, how do you say in English, porte-à-faux, those amazing concrete balconies, really gigantic, very interesting.
Cantilever. Maybe you are talking about cantilever. Yeah. And I appreciate a lot of about the house, the intimacy, no? Because one of the problem we have often me always as an architect is the relationship between what is correct, what is coherent, what is architectural, and what is human, no? And Michelucci, when you told Michelucci, I realized what I was watching, no? Because really Michelucci was able, as also many architects in Italy during that years. For example, I love a lot about this issue. I love a lot Mario Ridolfi, for example. A man really able to be at the same time man and architect, no? I think with the two parts of his brain, and this is not so common, no? Because as an architect, often we are as an architect, but also as I'm watching Michael now, maybe he could talk about his job, his work. As a visual artist, often we are a little bit egocentric, no? And in the work of my old neighbor, there are not egocentrism. No, so it's a new kind of aesthetic, in my opinion. Mike.
Yes, can you share the screen with me, Pepe?
Your screen or my screen?
My screen, sorry.
You can share it.
Okay. Let me see. Okay. Can you see my screen now?
Yeah.
Okay, let me tell you about my garden, where I am now, very quickly. Can you see this?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Early drawings, several hundred years ago, sandstone buildings, beautiful, beautiful circular staircase in there. These trees Angulphras, they're home to wildlife. They strip their bark naturally. They have really interesting stories about how they work with nature, how they provide a home to nature. And in fact, indigenous people, we used to cut canoes from their bark as well. Also on the south side of slopes, because we're in the southern hemisphere, you get moist forest there. This is where I live at the moment. And you can see it's a little cove. It was subdivided about 100 years ago. This is what it looks like now. You can only get here by boat. There's no cars. That's what I love most about this place. There are no cars. There's a range of new, old, dramatic houses, and about the only cars we have. Some people have little golf buggies. That's my parents visiting here, so we drive them around on this golf buggy. But it's very communal. You just ask a neighbor, "Can I borrow your golf buggy?" They go, "Sure." The streets, because it's old subdivision, the streets were laid out, but no roads ever built. So actually, last weekend, these kids drew pictures in the sand with sticks and had a competition. So it's very lovely. You can play your activities on the beach. And every year, the streets are closed and they have running races, competitions, talent quest, that kind of thing. It's very old-fashioned. I like this because it reminds me of 1960s. Kids looking at jellyfish, meeting dogs on the beach. This ferry was built just to come over to the island, and always this passing across the water is very beautiful. It's like the wind-down process. And in the morning, if I catch the ferry over to do printing, it's got like local school kids going to work. You can sort of find out what's happening. It's also, as Pepe and James know, is how I got my trees over here as well. Sometimes don't catch the ferry. You can kayak over. It takes you about half an hour. It's about 1.2 kilometers. And I'm still not too old that I can make it over. Maybe take my plants over there. You can see some plants. When you arrive, this little hut, it's open, tells you the fire rating for the day, and it's a communal library. So I've seen these in Milan. Oh, of course, they're everywhere. This is my parents in the library. Actually, I found some pretty good books in there. This is my father bringing some beer over. So the jetty is like that, the main street, because there's no cars. That's my daughter. She's here at the moment. And it's very beautiful for nighttime. You can go in there and read. And the big activity is jump off the jetty. When it's hot, just jump off that thing. It's a video. Anyway, my son's doing a backflip in there. That's me jumping off. This is the house I'm in now. I'm using this time to change it, to make it a little bit different. These are some designs I'm doing, but in the meantime, I'm doing a little sample, which is a studio, a shed out the back. Used to be a scout hall, was moved over here. So I'm bringing trees over, I'm getting dirty and fixing this thing up. And also all the water comes from underground. So this is a bore, it's beautiful and clean. You chop your own wood here. You can have any people come over. Everything is wood. The light comes into the house. Friends come to the house.
I'm not jealous at all. Not
It's
at all.
my home. And it's very close to nature. You know, when it rains, you really feel it, like it's heavy and hard. When the bushfires come, it's filled with smoke. The other big focus is the community fire brigade, and that's about 50 meters from me. And everybody's a member of that, and we all do activities there. Maybe just on this is the last slide, I think. Maybe this will just kind of show that this is speeded up with the mist coming through in the morning. Is very beautiful.
Wow.
And maybe the main thing is there's just no noise of car. And that's what I love the most. So it's not really a garden. It's anti-garden. It's like a whole park setting there.
It's a living garden.
Yeah.
And I hope, as Pepe often says, that we can maybe, sometime meet here. If I can't fit all the people in the house, I can hold about 10 or 15 people here, but maybe there's other houses I can borrow here, maybe another one or two. So it's a really good place to hang out. And finally, Pepe, very good surf beaches, about 10 minutes away.
Please show something related to. Are you seeing this picture? Oh, okay. Are you seeing this house with yellow windows?
Yeah,
Yes.
sure, yeah.
So those are the what we call in Brussels. It's very important. It's called Cité Jardin, which means garden cities, and they were built extensively around the center of Brussels in the areas where you could have cheap land after the First World War. So Germans had to pay, as we know, huge damages to Belgium and France and all the countries they invaded during the First War. And with all the money that the government collected, at the same time, the working class in Belgium and also in France was was pushing towards communism. They were organizing in unions and communist parties and socialist parties they really wanted socialism immediately, and so there were a lot of strikes and huge protests. So the government was very afraid, and also the big bourgeois families of Belgium were really afraid. It was called in Italy, it was the Biennio Rosso, which this year will be the 100 years. Was the two revolutionary years in Italy that led then to Mussolini. Mussolini arrived essentially to block this huge pre-revolutionary uprising. And in Belgium, what they did is that they financed heavily those projects of Cité Jardin, garden cities, that were obviously inspired by the British, the UK examples of the 19th century, but also by the Dutch. And it was all organized by the working class and the co-ops. They had autonomy to do whatever they wanted with the money. And so they made those thousands and thousands of houses and apartments for workers, always surrounded by gardens and trees and parks, all those things that poor people didn't have before. So it was very interesting, and all the big architects of that time worked on those projects, but they were all modernists. But although they wanted to bring modernism, they had to cope with all the, the taste of the working class of the time. So it was very interesting, because actually those are modernist buildings, but in a kind of Tessino, compromise with tradition and continuity of some elements of architecture that could be understandable by the people. So here you can see this kind of window that all reminds us almost of Aldo Rossi. But all this was very well designed, and still now is an amazing part of Brussels. So you have this kind of weird architectures. Those are more urban and inside Brussels, with gardens also inside the Hofes. And you have more modernist examples also. You have more cutting edge buildings, and it's very, very beautiful. And every house has its own garden, and they were surrounding the city. So we call it the red ring of Brussels. So the elite was kind of afraid, because they were essentially financing the working class to organize itself, because then inside those neighborhoods you had all sorts of supermarkets, co-op supermarkets, working class houses and so on. So they kind of stopped. So those are one of the plans, and made by architect Swalman. Then there is Victor Bourgeois and also so on. And here you have some examples also of pictures I made some years ago, 10 years ago, for a project I wanted to do here, of some examples of houses of those Cité Jardin. And here you see that all the taste is more modern in a way. So all this is from, and you can see all those small details, like the windows that could be open during the winter without, losing heat on those small corners. Everything was very well designed. And so, yeah, this was, and I'm talking about today because we want next year in my school, I propose to do a whole year about those neighborhoods that are not very understood even by architects in Belgium. They all think that those are related to the UK in a way, and that heroic architects brought those projects to Brussels, and the historiography kind of erased the real nature of those that of those neighborhoods that were extremely politicized and that were produced by the working class, not by the architects. The architects here were totally at the service of the people, and they worked together really in a beautiful kind of reunion of interests in a way. And so I want my students next year to work on those neighborhoods, to study them, and to make a sort of new garden town for Brussels, in a way, under new tendencies and new projects. So every student will make, they will make all together the new neighborhood to introduce them to urban redesign. They are in the second year of bachelor, but I want them to be already the best architects in the world. So they will make a city of their own, and then design the houses and also design the whole social project of those neighborhoods. So we are studying a lot, and so the whole year I'm going to study those neighborhoods and present the history of those neighborhoods, also to my colleagues that kind of idealize this as a total ego, because all those Cité Jardin are known for their architects, but not for its, you know, history of relationship to the people that live there.
Yes, it's interesting. I liked a lot the windows with the small triangles to get fresh air without lost heat, without during the winter. No, it's interesting. During this episode, as you know, we don't have fixed topics, but we are find topics. We are finding keywords, and in the middle of them, for example, small things. Small things, in my opinion, is one of the most. It's funny. It's interesting that a small thing like the virus is teaching us how important are small things. No?
Oh, absolutely.
And
as we say in Italy, also in English, the devil is in the details. So.
And now, before I introduce Antonello's work for our town in Milano, I would like to share with you the very nice images James sent me. So we could, I could share again my screen. Try to do my best. Let me, yes, okay. Can you see it?
Yes.
What about James?
So this is a 1,000-year-old garden in Suzhou, the city of Suzhou in China. And Suzhou is being called the Venice of China because it's a river city. It's got a very long history. It was the capital of a local empire 2,500 years ago. And it's also where a lot of culture, poetry comes from. It's actually my hometown on my mother's side, Suzhou. So it's a garden that I really want to show you guys. This is the old floor plan or the planning of the garden, and it's people live there. It's basically a private residence, and the blue you see is actually outside. So it was really interesting to see about the boundary of nature, or what's outside the garden, what's inside the garden. Okay, next picture. Yeah, and the next one. Can you play the video for everybody? It's about 2-minute video. Okay. So here's a door to the garden, and you can see this is a corridor, or it's a double corridor. On the left-hand side is the outside of the garden. with the water and the river. And on the right-hand side is inside the garden. So this whole video is me walking on the inside of the garden, and you can see the lattice. So the inside and outside is always in conversation. You have and then the mountain in the middle of the garden to your right is digged out, is made from the soil digged out from the river to the left on the outside. So the solid on the inside is the void on the outside. And each and every window is different. So this is on the wall, perimeter of the wall, walking on the inside of the garden. And then you come to a door and you make a left, and then you're outside again. And you can see the outside of the boundary of the garden. And you can see the river, which is public space. So what was outside also becomes inside because it feels like it's part of the garden, even though it's not. This is a little pavilion at the threshold between the inside and the outside. And the letter on it says, to listen to silence. Okay. And Pepe, maybe just go through the rest of the pictures. There's about 5 or 6 pictures. So that's the outside, the entrance gate. Next. The next picture, Pepe. That's also the outside. Next picture. That's the threshold between the inside and the outside, the double corridor. Next. That's inside the garden. And you can see even on the inside, there's a double corridor. There's a one on the hard paving and then the soft paving in the garden itself. Next one. And then the architecture within the garden also have their own pathways. Next one. There we go. Next one. Next one. Next one. And it's a very, very small garden. There's this, what I showed was maybe only less than 1/4 of it. It feels like a very large garden, but it's only about 100 meter by 100 meter. So it's a 10,000 square meter plot of land, which is actually quite small if you see it from the air. But if you're inside the garden, you're walking, it feels like it's endless. You are just going from one landscape to the next, and experientially, it's very, very rich, the inside and outside, and the transparency, and also the meandering quality of multiple viewpoints. And it's something you cannot see through the whole time. You're just seeing the landscape and the garden unfold in front of your eyes. You never can comprehend the entire garden from any point of view. Okay, that's it. Yeah.
And
thank you, Pepe. Huh?
What is astonishing is that the garden already.
Thank you.
Although it is astonishing how the garden reproduced a kind of ideal idea of a garden.
Yes.
Also putting some rocks that are obviously made by man. It's a kind of construction of an idea of a garden, which is so modern for the time. I mean, at the time in Europe, there was nothing, not even near that kind of idea. That came only after with the English. So it's
abstraction of nature. It's the abstraction of nature and utopia.
Exactly. It's crazy, crazy.
But the garden also has a lot of actually. I didn't have time to show you the architecture of it, actually have its living quarters, has the servants' quarters. There's space for cooking. There's space for seeing guests. There's a library for writing calligraphy. Actually, I took David there 2 years ago, and it's just amazing. I mean, this landscape it's totally artificial, actually, like Gregory, like you said, totally artificial, but it alludes to this utopian landscape. This kind of that how the intellectual would like to live, in this very utopian landscape.
Very contemporary in a way. It's like
very, very contemporary. Yeah.
Weird that it's so old. It's amazing. It's amazing.
And it's not in its very good state because all the plants and the trees, actually a lot of them have been replaced, and they're not. But you can see actually it's very different from Japanese gardens that you will see in Kyoto or Nara, which is so pristine and so perfect that it has to work. You almost have to manage every single corner. Somebody said this to me about Chinese gardens, and this, I don't know if it's a compliment or not, maybe not, that Chinese gardens are able to survive calamities. That the beauty of the garden is able to survive calamities, and where a Japanese garden could not. So I don't think it's neither a compliment nor so this garden is definitely, it's very, very dilapidated state when we went there.
This definition is really interesting.
Yeah,
it is very
interesting.
So maybe there are architecture also that can survive calamity, and maybe and we would think like we are all people, we will want to survive this calamity. So maybe it's interesting to see. And the garden you showed, the Pepe with the grove tree, and that's probably a garden that can survive.
So after beautiful images, it's time for one of my favorite quotation by Adolf Loos. No, Adolf Loos told on the lake, the landscape is wonderful. On the hills, the farmer's house complete the landscape. Just one thing is make it bad. The architect house. So now it's time for farmers. And Antonello could explain us what is what he and his friends is doing in this Milano, which changes so fast. No, so in Milano are skyscrapers. A lot of skyscrapers are growing up, but not only skyscrapers.
Yeah.
Also beans, maybe. Also tomatoes.
Yeah, maybe. Okay, I will talk to you about a little different kind of gardens, community gardens. I will talk about community gardens, and I will try to share my screen. I hope it will work. And the core of a community garden is the community itself. And it is like a big family, and it is important in this to grow the relationships between people, between persons that live in this community. First the person, and after the vegetables or the plants. And this was the first photo about the community.
I can recognize my friend Franco Beccari.
Yeah. It's not. It's maybe, I don't know, a few years ago I took personally this photo, and there are the volunteers that at the time were in the garden taking care of it. And this very particular community garden, Orti di Via Padova. It is a community garden very unique in Milan, where pets are allowed to go free. side. So it's very peculiar one. It's a very good peculiar one. It's very nice. There could be some problems, but it's very nice. I will move on. I was talking about bees and beekeeper, and I was telling you that urban honey is very popular now because is more healthy than some countryside honey. In some part, I mean, not all countryside, but in where there are in the countryside where chemicals are used that are very bad for bees. Okay, I was talking to you about beauty. That is a factor very important for community garden, a factor to attract people to join this community. So you can see this flower. I don't know the English name. In Italian is cardo, should be, if I'm not mistaken. Help me with translation. Is the same of the same family of carciofi. That I don't know. Maybe you can help me with translation. Okay. And I was talking to you about beauty. This is another community garden. This is Niguarda community garden in the north of Milan. This was made during COVID, so a few months ago. It is a mandala figure with 9 different types of salads with different shape and colors. It wasn't easy to perform it, but we made it. We were very few because only very few people were allowed to go in the community garden during this period. And but we wanted to make it even also this year because it was an important message for our community to carry on, a positive message. And what else I can say to you? Okay, this is another project. In Milan, we have an agroforestry project and also a CSI project, meaning a community supported agriculture project. And last weekend, we built an oven with clay, and on Sunday afternoon, I wasn't there in the afternoon, I was in the morning. They made also a pizza. They told me that was very, very good. I will send you photos if you like. On the right, that yellow building, almost a few more in September last year, we made an experimental building with recycling reuse materials. And if you are interested, I can talk about it next time. So if you wish to invite me to talk more, I don't wish to take you many time, but if you have questions, I will be happy to answer you. Okay, that's all for now. Okay, I will stop sharing. Okay.
That's wonderful.
Grazie, Antonello. Thank you, Antonello.
Thanks to you.
And I think this kind of job is really interesting. It's really interesting because it's able to involve people in the preservation of the soil, no? Just in town where the soil is often food for a developer, no? So we have our special guest for today, Ilke Cetin. No, because this is your first time in Open with Garden, but to be honest, she maybe is the person who know Open with Garden better than us, because she every time cut and prepared every episode to put them on YouTube, and try to find with me the title, the main topics of the single episode, and so on. What do you think about this period of the garden, and what is happening in your life currently?
I think the thing you are doing here is so full of content, and because I watch every week carefully, and there are a lot of different kind of things, and you can learn a lot of different kind of things from different cities and cultures and everything. So I think you created something so good here. And about the situation, we were always in Milano, and as you know, Italy is one of the worst situation in here. But finally, I hope we got through it. So
It's funny because I know you are not shy, but of course this is your first time in our episode, so you are a little bit shy. But you don't have to forget that you was the first Turkish correspondent in Italy for national television during the COVID period.
yes, because from Turkey, they connected.
Funny because she was asking me, can I go out of the office because I have a live on national Turkish television? What?
And they started calling me because the situation was so interesting here, and they wanted to know. And we started a couple of days later. They called me again, and they wanted to talk with me again, like a couple of times, and they wanted me to go out while people are not around. It was so interesting. Yeah.
So I guess we could close this episode asking to our friend MBMB some news about his Facebook group, how is it going on internet, and if you have some project for the future of this group and for the issues you put using it. Sorry.
Thank you very much. Actually, like we celebrated like our Independence Day, like on 30th June, like as Gregor has mentioned it before, like everyone did it at home. We couldn't go out, and the president just announced announced to everyone like to stay home and to be off, like to stay with hope, and everything will be fine in the future. So in the meantime, I'm still trying to get some contacts for the Facebook group, because as I said before, in the Facebook group, we have the public, not only architects, but everyone is in the group. Everyone was interested in the goal of the group. So I'm still trying to get some contacts through friends and everyone, but for now everything is going a little bit slow with this situation of COVID, but I hope in the future everything will be fine. So it's still in the phase of getting contacts and getting people involved and interested in the project.
It's, in my opinion, very important because the idea you had and the way you are using to develop it, it's very interesting because it's able to show to the people the beautiful and the rarity of Congolese landscape. Because you have the second, I suppose, the second biggest forest in the world. You have the Congo River is an amazing river able to shape the landscape. And so you have to come back here with some new image to tell us how in the group the discussion about Congolese landscape is going, because it's very important.
You are so young, but you are doing a great job.
Thank
And
you.
so now it's time to say bye-bye. But before to say bye-bye, I would say you thank you for every content that you shared with us. And
speaking of which, Peter Eisenman and Cynthia Davidson will probably
soon.
Yeah.
Oh, great! This is a good news.
And also,
great news.
Slam China, they are interested.
This is a good news. And so I appreciated a lot the Tuscanian House David showed us, the drawing and the picture by James. Everything is the small detail of Greg pictures, the amazing job Antonello and his friend is doing in Milano. But the winner is my friend Michael Erickson, because the wildness of his approach to the gardening is modern, is contemporary. In my opinion, really, because I love a lot the image of the traditional garden I showed you at the beginning, no? The present with the stones, with the wall, I love a lot. Of course, this kind of architecture is into my soul. But a more wild approach and more spontaneous, as Gregorio always say me, we have to be spontaneous. And the spontaneous and living garden Michael showed us, I suppose, is rich of secrets we have to learn, and we should have to start from this kind of secret. So,
what is the nearest airport, Michael?
Sorry?
What is the nearest airport?
Sydney Airport.
Oh, okay.
Maybe
looking for flights right now.
It's actually, on a good day, it's 1 hour to the airport. It's not bad.
Oh wow,
that's perfect. So as usual, we could say bye using the same soundtrack I put at the beginning. So I hope every day you have time to take a walk on the wild side and enjoy this special weekend for our American friends, and enjoy this this Independence Day for our Congolese friends, and for all of us, Hope with garden.
Bye, guys.
And do read again for us.
Thank you, Patrick. Thank you.
Thank you. From the deep of my heart. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, James. Thank you, Ike. Thank you, Antonello. Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Andy. See you soon.
In the back room, she was everybody's gone.
It's lovely seeing
But she never
the
lost
one
her
you
head.
are living
Even
out
when
there.
she was giving head, she says, "Hey, babe, take a walk on the wild
See you
side."
soon. Hope we
Say,
garden
"Hey,
to all of you.
take a walk on the wild
Bye.
side."